Hey all, this is Travis Kassab here, and we are going to talk about a framework for how to compare different layer ones in this emerging landscape of blockchains that we are seeing today. So this is the last video in this blockchain series. In the previous video, I skipped a few things and I want to kind of go back and talk about them. So we're talking about this landscape of emerging layer ones. Bitcoin and Ethereum, we've already talked about. Ethereum is transitioning to Ethereum 2.0, which could be considered a blockchain 3.0 blockchain. And then we have also these other layer ones popping up here. Binance Smart Chain, this has existed for several years. Solana had meteoric growth last year in 2021. It had one of the fastest price increases that we've seen in crypto so far. Cosmos, Avalanche, Phantom, Cardano, Flow, right? And Polkadot, Kusama, Near, Elrond. So these are kind of the main competitors that I see. You could go to CoinMarketCap and you can look at their relative values. Bitcoin is number one, Ethereum is number two, Solana, Terra, Cardano, Avalanche, Polkadot, Near, Cosmos, Algorand. Okay. So this is sort of what I'm talking about. This really is what I'm talking about when we talk about blockchain 3.0. These are the emerging layer ones we are referring to. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about how to compare these layer ones between each other. I found a really helpful article here done by the Block Research that gives 4 pillars for comparing these blockchains on. The first is you compare them on their technical design and performance, which we're going to talk about first. Then next, on-chain and ecosystem data. This tells you about the health of the network and the relative success that it's having to other networks. You can talk about the blockchain's native cryptocurrency and its token economic model, like what is the monetary policy for that token. And then finally, you can talk about the founding team of these layer ones, and then also the fundraising mechanisms that they're using to fund the development of their project. So let's start with the technical design of these blockchains. Obviously, as product designers who are presumably not blockchain developers, we're not going to get into too much technical detail here, but I want to touch on some things that we've referred to in previous videos. So here are some layer one smart contract blockchains we can compare. And let's talk about the technical design of them. You know, what is their consensus mechanism, proof of stake, proof of authority for Binance Smart Chain, proof of work for Ethereum, although Ethereum 2.0 is going to transition to proof of stake. And they all have their own consensus algorithm here. There's also something called finality, priority, chain reorgs, etc. So I'll let you get into more detail on what each of those mean, but this is I think this is a really good chart for what is going on here in terms of the technical design of blockchains. These are the sub-pillars within technical design, okay? So let's move on to something called on-chain data and ecosystem data. There are many different measures we can use to compare these blockchains. We can, as I said before, we can go back to the active wallet addresses on the blockchain, and that, as the macro investor Raoul Pal has said, is directly correlated to the price of that network. This is the network effect, and this is Metcalfe's law that we've been talking about. So that's really important. How many active wallet addresses are on that network? We can also look at other things like the amount of daily value, the amount of value that's transacted on a daily basis. Like Ethereum moves like tens of billions of dollars in crypto on a daily basis. These smaller chains are who don't have as much capital, don't have as much as large of a user base are going to have smaller numbers. And I'm just giving you different categories that you can compare these across. Average network fee is another one. Let's see what else. They list some others. Let me see if I put that in here. Yeah, how many developers they have. This is really important for smart contract blockchains because these smart contract blockchains are platforms and third-party developers come in and add functionality to the platform. The Apple iPhone by itself would not be as valuable as if it didn't have the Apple App Store, which provides all of these other apps developed by other developers who are adding functionality to that device. And smart contract blockchains are very similar. So Ethereum is still the most dominant in terms of its developer community. It's 2.8x the second largest developer community of layer ones, which is the Polkadot ecosystem. So that is just something to be aware of. But then also, I think a really big one here is the total value locked in the DeFi protocols of these blockchains. So there are many different DeFi protocols on Ethereum, like Uniswap, Curve, like these are the decentralized exchanges, Aave Compound for earning interest on your crypto, MakerDAO for stable coins and all that. I'm going to get more into that in later videos, but at this point, let's just look at, see how you can, like Ethereum is by far the most dominant in total value locked in their DeFi protocols, around 100 billion, Terra 21 billion, Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche. You see how these get smaller and smaller. The next thing to talk about is the blockchain's native cryptocurrency. So we can talk about what is its supply schedule. Is it a fixed supply like Bitcoin, which only has 21 million Bitcoin ever? That's a fixed supply or hard cap. Or there's inflationary, where the currency continues to be issued like until the end of time, right? There's more nuance here, like Ethereum has something called, Ethereum is implementing something where now network fees are being burned, which could actually make the supply of Ethereum deflationary. We could be decreasing the supply of Ethereum, which totally changes the token economic model here. So there's stuff to talk about there in terms of the monetary policy of these cryptocurrencies. Also, we can talk about the utility value of the cryptocurrencies. One utility value is something called governance. These layer ones are developed by a founding team, but the assumption is eventually that they're going to release control of the protocol, the layer one, and that they're going to let the token holders vote on any changes that are going to occur for that layer one, right? Any upgrades that need to happen in the next several years or 10 years out or 100 years out, however long these things stick around, you can use that layer one's native cryptocurrency to vote on proposals and make changes to the underlying protocol. So that's one utility function. And then another is something we talked about before, which is staking. You can delegate your crypto to validator nodes and you can earn a reward on that delegated crypto. Okay, so that covers the token economics and the native token of a layer one. That is the third pillar for comparing layer one technologies. And then the last is more qualitative. It's about the development team. What is the ethos and culture there? But then also we should talk about fundraising and how these layer ones are raising the funds to continue the development of their project. This has received attention, especially recently, where this whole idea of Web3 is decentralization, but we've seen in the past year venture capital firms get more and more involved in this space. They want to be the ones who come in and decide, to invest in whichever layer one is really going to win out at the end of the day. There's trillions of dollars that can be made in this space, and VCs are entering in large numbers. And so, the native cryptocurrency of each layer one that we just talked about sometimes this is used as a mechanism for fundraising, right? So if you sell 30% of the overall supply of your token to a venture capital firm for hundreds of millions or billions of dollars to develop your project, well, this calls into question the idea of fair launch. Like, how fair was that? Like, how many average retail investors had access to that token before a VC came in and really inflated the price? And then also it calls into question the decentralization of that layer one. We just talked about how these tokens can be used to govern the protocol moving forward. And so if one central firm holds a large proportion of the tokens, then how decentralized really is that protocol? It really is going to become more like a centralized thing, which gets away from the overall ethos of Web3, which is decentralization. So this brings us to the end of this blockchain module. This is an extension of the Web3 design course. And in the next module, I'm going to talk about Web3 tokens. As you've seen on here, and you've probably heard before, there's really tens of thousands of cryptocurrencies. It's pretty easy for anyone to deploy a token if they want, right? All these down here, we could go 100 pages in, and we're up to 10,000. We've got Kevin coin right here. Okay. This is something that is possible in smart contract blockchains to deploy your own token with its own monetary policy. And often we see decentralized applications that are built on top of these smart contract platforms deploy their own Web3 token, and they have their own utility and use cases. We won't get into it in here. We're going to get into it in the next video. And these Web3 tokens are not just fungible like Bitcoin and Ether and DOT like we've talked about, but they're also non-fungible. You may have heard of NFTs before in crypto art. Well, now we can make digital files scarce for the first time. We can say that this is the original JPEG, and we can prove it with the blockchain records that this digital file is mine. I can own it in my crypto wallet. So this is the topic of NFTs and crypto art. And again, we're going to get into more of that in the next module. But thank you guys so much for watching. And I want to say that I need to make a disclaimer here that I'm not a financial professional. I'm not advising you in any way on which coins to buy. I'm not making any financial advice. This is purely for educational purposes. Cryptos are volatile. If you do invest your money, you need to be careful because there's a lot of risk involved, you could say, in doing this. Again, these video series are for educational purposes. I'm trying to inform product designers on the Web3 ecosystem and to educate you, to get you up and running really quickly. Maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to create a product in the Web3 ecosystem, or you just want to start your career as, say, a UX designer, helping build decentralized app front ends. So again, no financial advice here. This is just for educational purposes. Thank you.